The new kid on my school bus asked where I get off. The driver told me not to answer. I noticed him the Monday after winter break, because he got on at the stop by the closed laundromat. Nobody usually used that stop anymore. It sat beside a boarded-up building with a faded sign, and a parking lot full of weeds. The driver still opened the doors like someone had been waiting there every morning. The kid climbed on wearing a gray hoodie that looked wet around the shoulders. He kept his backpack held against his chest, instead of wearing it. That was the first thing that felt wrong. Most kids throw their bags anywhere once they sit down. He held his like something inside might move. He walked halfway down the aisle and sat in the seat across from mine. Nobody said anything because it was early, and everyone was tired. Still, I could tell nobody recognized him. Our bus route is small enough that new faces stand out immediately. I asked my friend Mason if he knew the kid. Mason glanced past him and asked what kid I meant. I thought Mason was joking at first. Then I pointed directly across the aisle. Mason stared for a second and said I was pointing at an empty seat. The kid heard that. I know he did because his fingers tightened around the backpack strap. He never looked at Mason though. He looked at me. After that, I started watching him every morning. He always got on from the laundromat stop. He never talked. He never checked a phone. He never looked out the windows. The weirdest part was that I never saw him get off at school. The bus would pull up, everyone would stand, and somehow his seat would be empty by the time I reached the aisle. I tried staying seated one morning to watch. The driver looked at me in the mirror and said my name sharply. She told me to get off with everyone else. Her voice sounded scared, not angry. Yesterday the kid sat beside me for the first time. He smelled like rainwater, old leaves, and the inside of a garage. His backpack brushed my knee and made a quiet knocking sound from inside. He leaned close enough that I could see dirt underneath his fingernails. Then he asked where I lived. Before I could answer, the driver slammed the brakes so hard everyone shouted. She looked at me through the mirror and shook her head once. The kid smiled like he already knew anyway. The rest of the ride felt wrong because the bus was quieter than normal, even though people were whispering around us. Nobody said anything about the driver slamming the brakes. Nobody asked why she was shaking. It was like the whole bus had agreed to pretend the moment never happened. At school, I waited near the front doors after everyone got off. I wanted to see whether the boy would disappear again. This time Mrs. Klein stopped me before I could turn around. She said if he ever asked where I lived again, I should give him a place that did not exist anymore. I asked what that meant. She looked toward the empty bus and said some stops stay open after the route changes. That night I searched old news articles about the closed laundromat. I found one from 11 years ago about a boy who vanished after missing bus 14 during a storm. His name was Daniel Reeve. The article said his blue backpack was found near the bridge outside town. They never found him. The picture in the article was not perfect, but I knew it was him. Same face. Same tired eyes. Same backpack held too tightly against his chest. This morning he sat beside me again. He did not ask where I lived. He already knew my street name. I did not tell my parents the whole story, because it sounded insane even in my own head. Instead I asked my dad whether old bus stops ever stayed in the system after routes changed. He said sometimes maps updated slowly, but drivers knew which stops were active. Then he asked why I was suddenly interested in buses. I said school project. That lie felt heavier than it should have. That night I dreamed I was sitting on bus 14 by myself. Every seat was empty, except the one behind me. I could hear the backpack knocking softly against the floor. When I woke up, my shoes were wet beside my bed. Follow for part 2.